Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's athlete started her journey in 2016, and prior to her success and earning her IFBB Pro card at the British Champs, she was actually a WBFF Pro and started her whole journey in fitness competitions after crushing it in the fitness rounds in a 2012 beauty pageant. She works as a coach in her business, Team Fit Girl. She's a Ghost and Riderwear sponsored athlete, and a mother to her baby Evelyn and her angel baby Esme, who passed away at 1 day old. Her resilience and strength in her journey on and off stage has contributed to her mission in making other women feel confident, empowered, and strong, knowing that this is how women ultimately find love for what is on the outside. Welcome to the show, Kirsty Bentley. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. As I'm in the UK, it's already the evening, so I've already trained today.
Yes, that's right. So you're like, I'm solid. I do this and go straight to bed.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. What time is it there?
So it is 20 to 6 in the evening here.
Okay. Yeah. See, these days I go to bed so early because I'm in prep mode. And I mean, even when I'm not, I'm like grandma style with that. I like being up early, but like around 6, I'm like, okay, I better wrap stuff up. So thanks for being on here with me.
So in my time zone, you're already asleep.
I'm getting ready for that. I'm like, okay, let's wind it down. Some days I'll still be on calls, but most of the times I'm like, if I can avoid it, I will.
I love that.
Yeah. So before we get into everything, I always like to ask if there is anything you do, think about, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage.
Oh my goodness. I guess for me, I have to listen to the music and just enjoy the music, and I can't talk to anybody. So I just smile at people and kind of just enjoy the music. Um, and I also try to slow myself down, nervous system wise as well, because I can feel everything speeding up like I'm about to sprint. And I know that if I do that, I will run around the stage.
Yeah.
I have to enjoy the music, like getting to the music, get into the vibe a bit, but also just in a kind of a calm, chill way too, not too hard.
I got you. So what happens if you talk to people?
Um, it happened a couple of times last season, and I kind of got a bit distracted. So I kind of forgot about what I was just about to do. That happens also if you're kind of rushed. I don't know if you've ever been rushed on stage as well. So like you haven't had time to just kind of stand in the line and stand in the lineup. And I was rushed on stage in one of the shows, and the same thing happens is I kind of speed up or I kind of forget what I'm doing. So I just kind of have to take a moment to visualize what I'm just about to do, and kind of just, yeah, think about it and relax instead of talking about other things.
Oh, for sure. Like, I think we've all been caught up in that. And something that always gets me kind of flustered is when you're backstage and then suddenly they're like, bikini, bikini. And they're like, tell, and so you're like, oh my gosh, I'm bikini. And then they're like, novice class A. And you're like, oh, okay, well, hold on. This is going to be another, like, it's going to be a minute until I'm on stage, But it gets me so, like, I'm like, so when you said you have to essentially put your nervous system into a calmer state, what are some of the things that you do to support you with that?
Well, often I will just breathe in through my nose, out through my mouth. I'll also take some really deep breaths as well, a bit like how we do kind of 360 like belly breathing in like postpartum rehab. I'll do like really big breaths because what I found was I was starting to breathe so much through my tummy on stage. Um, because I was nervous. So I tried to kind of get all of my all of the oxygen flowing through my body. So I'm kind of like gasping on stage. I have my AirPods, my headphones in a lot of the time as well. Listen to some of the songs that kind of kept me going through prep as well. So I've done I've replayed a few of the songs, some that I, listened to on the way to the gym and or in the gym, just to kind of remind me of the whole process. And yeah, and also I do the pump up, pump the delts as well.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Cover resistance band, pump the delts, and yeah, just try to get into the the zone.
Oh, definitely. And you know what? Actually, I haven't talked about this on the podcast in so long, and I think you're a good person to talk to about this because you're also a coach. Is there such thing as too much pumping up?
I think it depends on the person often. So I think it depends on the delts.
Yeah,
Depends on the delts and the person and how easily they're pumped up, how carved up that person is, how much food you've kind of ran into show, and whether they're going to overpower the physique if they're pumped up. For me, my delts I don't think are that big, so for me they don't kind of overpower my physique. So I think for some people, yes, leave it out. Some people no, and that's up to their coach usually. Some girls I would get to pump up their delts sometimes. Sometimes I don't even because I don't need it.
definitely. And I feel like you have to be so aware of what's happening at the show because they could be lining you up, but that doesn't mean it's pump up time. This is something I've learned the hard way. Like you could be lined up in this spot, but then they take you to a different spot and you're still behind like two or three other classes. That's how it was for me at North Americans, where I was like, oh, so we all just pumped. And now we go wait even longer. And so that was a strange experience. So you kind of learn, I think, as you go when to pump and how to get the most out of it. Do you have any particular maybe strategy you like a certain amount of time before you get on stage, or maybe with a snack, or yeah, timing like that?
Yeah, so I think the sweet spot for me is like um the one or two when one or two classes is on before is so if there's one class on, the next one's lining up, and then I'm the third. So when you're kind of at the back of the kind of the queue, because often they'll line up at least two classes behind the one that's on the stage, I found. So um when they call that lineup, I find that that's a good time to start slowly pumping up. For me, that allowed me to have enough time to pump up, but it wasn't too rushed as well. Because I think when you're just about to go on stage, you kind of need to kind of be just, woosa, a
Yes.
little, calm me down a little bit. So yeah, so the kind of the class before the the
Yeah,
one.
I like that. That's like a nice way of looking at it, especially for people who maybe don't have their coach with them backstage or who aren't able to contact them because sometimes service is bad. That's like a nice way to consider it.
Sure, yeah, and a lot of my shows were in Europe, so a lot of my shows I was solo as well. So I was in France, Sweden, Poland. So my coach was not there. So obviously, if you've got your coach with you, that's great because they can just say, bump up now, and they can help you. But when you're solo, I think that's a good gauge because any longer than that, you could be waiting backstage for so long, and then you've lost it, and you're fatigued, and then you've then got to do your marathon on the stage.
Exactly.
So I think too early is not great. You're either going to be fatigued or you're going to lose your pumps. There's no point. So yeah, I think that's a good amount of time if you don't have your coach there for sure.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it because I've been guilty of like, oh, I'm gonna pump because I'm backstage and that's what you're supposed to do. And this was like early on in my journey, and then I'm like, well, I'm still pumping, and it was just at that point it was no longer really doing much. And so you kind of find your sweet spot, and it can make a big difference.
Oh, for sure. It's quite daunting as well if you see all of the other girls pumping up and you're like, oh, I should
Yeah,
now. And actually they might be like 6 classes ahead of you, you know.
for sure.
So yeah, so important to be in your own lane, I think.
Definitely. And something, I mean, we should just jump right in. You won your pro card with a 1-year-old.
Yes.
I mean, that in itself is amazing. And then you add on top of that that you were grieving the loss of one of your daughters. So I want to open the floor to you on that one, but how did you do that? How did you even navigate bodybuilding while going through this joy and grief?
It's a bit of a paradox with my situation because obviously I have the joy of being a new mum, and then I have the grief and the loss that comes with losing a baby too. So they are identical twins, and the difficulty with the loss I have experienced personally. Now I know a lot of people have experienced the same, but similarly, it's a different situation because I have a replica essentially of my daughter who is in heaven, and it's challenging because she feels like she's there all the time, and she's not. Um, the 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 difficulty with my birth is that my daughter passed away not because she was poorly, but because um, she they were not um, how do I put this? So she was healthy. She shouldn't have passed away. So the difficulty of that is the fact that she was, a healthy baby and she should have been here. And when you are a brand new parent anyway, it's easy to lose yourself in postpartum. I suffered with a lot of low mood, a lot of post traumatic stress, a lot of trauma. I also myself was a medical emergency through negligence. So I had a category 1 emergency C section. So I had about a minute and a half to live myself. Um, I also lost 40% of my blood as well. And I didn't have a blood transfusion. So I was really poorly afterwards.
Mhm.
Um, and postpartum, I had an iron transfusion. So it took about 8 weeks for me to kind of not be shaky. So I was in a physically a very bad way. And the when you are obviously recovering from birth, it's challenging because you don't recognize or feel like you're in your body. But also for me, I didn't feel like I could function like a healthy, fit person. I couldn't walk for a little while. I had to be pushed around in a wheelchair. Even when I did start to walk, I was very slow. So if you go from being a fit, healthy, strong competitor and then to somebody who can't stand alone, can't go to the toilet alone, can't take 8 steps without completely, trembling. And then also be put into the situation where you have to care for a newborn, a premature newborn as well. It was a stressful situation. So for me, when I decided to compete, I didn't actually put pressure on myself, but for some reason, I had in my mind that the week of my girl's birthday, there would be a show and that I would be on stage and my little girl would be on stage and I would get her on stage and I would be there and I would hold her on stage as a, a tribute to her sister. So I had this vision in my head and it got me to the gym. It got me to take time away from the wheel of constant, just looking after, a newborn, which is all very consuming. And it forced me to go and work on myself and get myself fit, healthy, and strong again. And I'm a great believer in the stronger the body, the stronger the mind. So for me, I couldn't have a strong mind after losing my daughter without having a strong body.
Mm.
So for me going to the gym and working on my body was a way of strengthening my mind. And I had that week in the back of my mind. And it just so happened that there was a show the week of their birthday. Um, and it was a regional show, which of course you need to do a regional show before you do a pro qualifier. So it landed absolutely beautifully. So I did the novice, true novice, and open class in that show, and I won all three. And Evelyn was on stage with me with all three of my medals, and that's kind of where the season started. But yeah, I guess I guess that may answer your question. It may not. I think I've gone down a bit of a path, but that's the kind of the inspiration from me starting my prep, and it is very much inspired by my little girl who isn't here, and I don't think that I would have done it otherwise, because it was a way of, I guess, saving me, to be
Mm.
honest. Um, and it did. It saved me, and it's tough to say that, but it's true. And yeah, it was a positive and a calling as such.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I appreciate you being so open and vulnerable about that experience because I know there's other women who have experienced this, and it's not an easy thing to talk about or even to hear about. So the fact that you're bringing it to the table is so courageous of you.
Mhm.
And the joy, I imagine, was incredible, but then you're dealing with that trauma, that loss, and you said that it was through having a strong body and re-strengthening your body that your mind became stronger. So how did you actually prioritize your health in the postpartum recovery while also doing a prep? Because I imagine there were some unique circumstances after the types of difficulties you faced in that birth experience.
Yeah, I think with my immediate postpartum, so my immediate health concern was looking at how my vital organs were affected by preeclampsia, which is high blood pressure, which is what happened. So I had preeclampsia and a placenta abruption. So I was bleeding internally, and the oxygen supply was cut off from both of my babies. Um, the preeclampsia was undetected. I was in labor for a few days. Um, so after that, I had to check to see if my liver, kidneys, everything was functioning properly. Um, and the situation of my health was improving postpartum, and I took a few months to consider whether it was um, a good idea for me to do it. But a few months postpartum, about 4 months postpartum, I was struggling with anxiety a lot, and my weight was going down quickly. So, what was happening was I wasn't eating properly. And that was because I was in this kind of constant fight or flight mode. I was dealing with a lot of internal battles, and it wasn't conscious, but I was just losing weight very, very, very effortlessly. I know that's a bit of a trigger subject, so I hope that's okay to say. But
Oh, yeah, of course.
when I decided to prep, it required me to eat, and it required me to schedule my meals, take my supplements, make sure I got to the gym, and it made me nourish my body. So, whereas often in prep, it's associated with deprivation, with reducing calories. For me, it was the opposite. I needed to increase my food, increase the frequency that I was eating, because otherwise I couldn't train how I needed to train in order to rebuild my physique and retain the muscle mass that I had. So the the pros outweighed the cons there, um, which is interesting
Yeah.
because obviously it's often associated with, with dieting and being a low weight and all of the difficulty that comes with that. For me, it was a positive thing, to get me to look after myself.
I
you know
love that perspective. I do know. I mean, I've often said that bodybuilding's been the reason I've made it through a lot of really depressive episodes because where I probably would have not cared for myself, wouldn't have fed or moved, mostly movement. I just could become a couch potato because of it or not feed myself properly, like because I track macros, because going to the gym is my norm, because this form of care for myself has become a natural part of my life. It actually has benefited me when I go into a down. It's like, well, I'm still gonna eat because I gotta hit my macros. So I never, I don't have to worry about the physical side because of that.
yeah, yeah. That's a perfect example of how it gives you that focus and makes you focus on you, because if you're missing those meals and then you try and go and train, that you're not going to be able to lift those weights. And the worst thing for a bodybuilder is to regress in training, right? You don't want to go into training and feel weak. Like, it's the worst thing. So
Goodness.
you've got to eat. The one thing I couldn't control was sleep. Um, that was something I couldn't control, but somehow, I was able to manage it, to recover, and to do my best. And that was all that was required in my head. It was do your best, get yourself to the gym, do what you love, eat, focus on that too. Otherwise, I would have gone 9-10 hours without thinking about myself, drinking water, all of these things that are required for us to function properly. um I wouldn't have done. And I think I cried on the way to the gym for a solid 7 months every day. And I just cried, and it was hard and it's challenging. And a lot of for me, I've always been someone who has had a really strong relationship with my body, with food. I've had a really I've been lucky enough to not to struggle with my mental health. So for me, this was very new. Um, and it was something which I knew I needed to go to the gym and I needed to train. And luckily, because of my lifestyle beforehand, because it's something that was important to me beforehand, my family around me were supportive of that and helped me to do that, which I'm very lucky, you know. And it's similar to yourself, otherwise you kind of you're a couch potato and then you're not outside,
Yeah, exactly.
daylight, it's which is also terrible for your health, mental and physical too.
That's right. Well, I think that a lot of what you're presenting is common for just postpartum in general. The desire to be completely focused on the baby, really, and the need as well to meet those needs. You were also running your business, and I think there was just a lot going on. So when you look back at that time now, how would you have described a normal day for you? Because I'm trying to imagine like having a newborn in the house, but then like all the other things too. And selfishly, I'd like to start a family, and I want to know more about like how that looked to incorporate all of that, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, it changed as she changed. So as she got older, things changed. So I have a carrier. I don't know if they're popular in the US, the ones where they go on your back,
Oh,
uh,
nice.
like a backpack, and
Uh-huh.
they sit up high. And so when she could sit up, I was doing my steps with her in her carrier, and that was great because
Wow.
heavier.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh my gosh, progressive overload.
Yeah. So each week I had to get fitter because she got heavier and heavier, and even
Yeah.
now, and she's heavier. Um, with the time, I obviously had a very limited time. So luckily though, I because I am a coach and because I have programmed for women who are very time pressed, I like to call it time poor, you know,
I love that.
I made sure my training was structured, so I got the maximum out of my training that I could. I also have a small home gym as well, so I have a treadmill, so I was able to do my cardio at home when she napped. So when she would nap, I would then do my cardio. When she was awake, I would do my steps. Um, you know, it's hard because you don't have a pair of hands sometimes, but I learned to do everything with one hand. Uh,
Wow.
just yeah, I'm also not a napper. I don't nap either. So I've never been able to nap. So even when I was pregnant with twins, I was actually very poorly as well. I was very nauseous a lot of the time, and yeah, I wasn't in a great way. I still only napped like twice. I still couldn't. It's not something that I'm into. So so I was awake. So if I was awake, I
Yeah.
was sleeping. Because I was moving so much, I didn't need to do a lot of cardio because I was go, 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 go all the time, early at night, in the middle of the night, So actually, where, you know, a lot of the time in prep, how long have I got on the Stairmaster? How long have I got left on the treadmill? I've got to move. For me, movement was constant. Like, you're picking them up, you're changing them, all of that. So that for me was a challenge. With my business, again, I am self-employed, so I could work when I needed to. Um, I was in the process of, so I myself and my husband, we were planning to have a baby long before I got pregnant. So I had a miscarriage in 2021, so I was already preparing myself for the time that happened. So I was moving my work on certain days, and I was actually reducing my work on certain days. I was quite careful with the amount of work that I took on because I knew that I needed to be able to manage on a certain amount of time and be able to give my clients what they needed. So I didn't overwhelm myself. So I was actually in the process of reducing that as well. The difficulty was immediately postpartum because what happened was because I was unwell with my preeclampsia, I couldn't even bend my fingers. My body was so fluid retained that I couldn't bend my fingers, so I couldn't use my phone. That stopped me from working. And then my recovery was also quite long. I was 2.5 weeks in hospital myself, but I was also in hospital for 6 weeks and a day with my baby Evelyn, who was in the neonatal intensive care unit for 6 weeks and a day also. Um, so during that time and post that, I also lost a lot of business, and it's not been the easiest to try to regain that. Understandably, because obviously I was not able to focus as much on my work as I wanted to. But also my priority was, also with my daughter and recovering too. So that did decline. But it meant that I could manage well the clients that I did have when I was able to, recover again. And actually, because it's what I love to do, it was nice to do too. It's not something that it's like, oh, I have to do this today. It's because I love working with my clients. It was a pleasure. And we had a show. I was only out of hospital for a matter of weeks, and I was in London, at a show. Um, so yeah, a lot of support as well, support and good time management and not a lot of sleep. It's the
Yeah.
only thing.
So, how did you go from like prepping to pregnancy prep to um like prepping postpartum? And let me rephrase that maybe. How did you prepare yourself to get pregnant? And then how did you incorporate recovery into your prep? Because you were time restricted, but you were also having to do exercises to support your body healing outside of just exercises for competition prep. So, how did you prepare to get pregnant? And then how did your prep look different with the recovery in mind?
So the preparation leading up to getting pregnant was not any different to my regular lifestyle because, I'm fit, healthy, strong, trained. You don't have to do anything different to prepare to get pregnant if you have a great lifestyle. It's just you're in a great position.
Love that.
Um, During pregnancy, the I'm a great believer in listen to your body. Listen, your body will tell you if something's not right. Obviously, you have hormones like relaxin, which makes you more prone to injury. Your body will tell you that you need to eat. You don't get to choose. You if you've got to eat, you've got to eat. And often I would need to eat at 3, 4 in the morning. My body would be like, no, you've got to eat now. You feel sick, and it forces you to. I did physically, like in terms of structure, I did the training that I usually do with adaptations.
Okay.
So, what I would do is, for example, when I was doing my squats, sometimes as I got bigger, because obviously I was pregnant with twins, I had a bump from 6 weeks, so I was your center of gravity is not okay. So barbell squats, soon realized, okay, body's not too happy with that, so I adapted to Smith machine squats. There are things that you need to do when you are pregnant, the things that you need to avoid. So, for example, crunching movements of the abdomen, those I just didn't do those. A lot of sitting, so using machines was absolutely fine. And then as kind of my midsection got bigger, I would just listen to my body, and sometimes things weren't comfortable. So cycling wasn't comfortable, so that was then a no. Split squats weren't comfortable, so then that was then a no. So my body told me when I needed to take something out. And throughout the whole process, I did 360 belly breathing, so using the deep internal abdominal muscles to strengthen my pelvic floor and internal abdominal muscles. And I did that throughout my pregnancy every day, from the day that I knew that I was pregnant, every day postpartum too.
Wow.
That's something you can do literally lying in your bed, standing in the shower, when you're training. When you're not training, I would literally just do it. I would expand the tummy, relax the pelvic floor, exhale, um, you know, contract the pelvic floor, and I would do that a lot. Um, Unfortunately, though, my pregnancy meant that my abdominals were split quite a lot. I was a very, very, very large pregnant lady with twins. Um, and because my birth was so quick, I ended up with post-op ileus, which is basically where your bowel freezes, and also hernia too, which meant that my abdominals didn't come back together the way that they were supposed to. So even with doing everything possible that I could to prevent it, there was still some things I couldn't control, and I still have abdominal separation. I still have a hernia, which also affected me on stage because it meant that I needed to really control my core because my abdominals are split slightly. So that means that I can easily have midsection distension. And that was a lot of my feedback: control your core, control your core. When Tyler Mannion was judging the European Championships in London, he said to me, Kirsty, you controlled your core great when you first came out. Comparisons, you lost your core control. So from that point, and that was my second show, I did 6. So from that point, I was like, right, okay, control your core, control your core. But obviously, I was only 1 year postpartum. My regional was the week of my twins' first birthday. So it's something that is is still a difficulty, but hopefully people will listen to this and realize that it's not impossible. Because if I could do that with my twins, with the birth circumstances, with the recovery, with being very poorly, then hopefully that inspires someone to think, well, actually, you know, even if I have a hernia or even if I have had abdominal separation, I can still do it because that it didn't stop me. you know?
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I was just thinking. I'm like, you're such a great example of resilience. And also, if anyone thinks like it's gonna be hard, and don't take this the wrong way, but they can look at everything you went through and go, well, I don't know if it gets much harder than that. And you overcame so much. And I look at and I hear what you're saying, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, you're a great example that you can really do anything, even against the odds.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of um it's in you, it's in you, that kind of ability to stand up and go, no, I can do this. Like it's in there. It's just whether you are overcome by the self-doubting thoughts, the negatives and the against, whether they take over your mind. Because obviously, in difficult situations, you're up against more negative thoughts, you're up against more self-doubt. And even postpartum, you don't recognize yourself. So you don't feel like yourself. So it takes trust, blind faith in yourself, and knowing that if you take the small steps you need to each day, they add up and that you can. And yeah, it takes that stubborn mindset to go, no, I'm not listening to self-doubt today. We're gonna do this, and it takes that every day and it's hard. It's not easy, but it's in there for everyone.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's so encouraging. And you brought up a good point too, like you don't even recognize yourself. Was your body image or has your body image been affected through all of this?
I have a better relationship with my body now than I did before. I am most comfortable in my body now than I was before. And yes, of course, before I didn't have abdominal separation. I had a more aesthetic looking midsection. I had less stretch marks, but let's face it, everyone's got stretch marks, everyone's got things about their body they don't quite like, and actually by seeing your body literally save, like my body saved my life. Um my body saved my surviving daughter's life. When you see that and experience that, I think that you only have a newfound respect for your body. And it's only by going through that I now know that, because I think people tell you, it's amazing, look at the what the female body can do, but when you physically go through that, you you're just mind blown. And I think, as a competitor, I brought better with my 1-year-old on stage than I ever have done in my competitive career before that, um, which blows my mind. So if I can't be happy in my body now, then I'll never will be. So,
Mm. Yeah.
you know,
Oh yeah, that's such a good point. And it's a reminder as well, like as women, our bodies are always evolving and changing. And at no point should we wait for this to be achieved to love and appreciate our body. It can be something we actively choose to do every day. And then, as you experienced, you were really motivated to get to the stage and have your daughter up there with you. And you won your pro card as well at the end of that season. Take us to that moment when you did go pro. Was your experience maybe different than you had expected as a result of everything you like learned and gained through that experience?
I think so. I did 6 shows over 8 weeks. So
That's
I
intense.
yeah. So from the first show, which was my regional show, I then did another show. So I did the European show, which was in London. I then had a 1 week break and I did Sweden. I also traveled to Poland, had another week break, traveled to France, and then I came back home for the British final. So the show layout was two shows, 1 week break, 2 shows, 1 week break, and then the last two. I wasn't certain how many shows that I was going to do, but I knew that I wanted to do the international show in Sweden, and I knew I wanted to do the European Championships, and obviously I needed to do the regional. So that was 3. So that way, in my head, I knew I've done what I needed to do. I've done the regional, that's my place. And then no expectations. I'll go to the European Championships. It's in London, and then I'll experience the pro qualifier in Sweden. And then the whole time I was like, if I'm close, I will keep going. If I'm nowhere near, that's me happy. I've done what I set out to do. So the goal in my mind, it was never the pro card. It's not normal or done that someone wins their pro card. I don't know what it's like in the US, but in the UK, it's not done in a first season. I never see it in a first season. It's always, because this was my first IFBB season, even though I'd competed previously. I've I've known these girls competing for years and years and years, and I didn't have, obviously, I don't have the entitlement to think that that was going to be the end result, but I, for some reason, I was called to it, and I knew that if I was close, I could keep going. So the regional, I won all 3, which was amazing. The European Championships, the pro qualifier, I came third. Um, and the winner of my height class, she won her pro card. So that night, so it was a really tough night. So I was so happy with that. But right, if I go to Sweden and I do the same, great. I know I'm nowhere near a pro card, but at least I've had a great experience. So I went to Sweden and I won my class, and there was only 3 classes. They were huge. They were huge, huge.
Wow.
Which is in the UK. I don't know how many there are in the US, but there's like eight classes, something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say 3 classes is so, I mean, that would also mean the height differences across those classes were pretty noticeable.
I actually would know that. Sorry, there was 4 classes, not 3, because there was 4 of us,
Okay.
4 of us in the overall. So there was 4,
Wow.
A, B, C, and D, and I can't remember what I was. C, I think.
Uh-huh.
There was one in the middle. And I won that class, which I was shocked. I was like, I'm in an overall. I'm in a pro qualifier overall. Are you kidding me? Like, what? Like, what?
How
And
fun.
that that moment of realization of I'm in a lineup. I'm in a lineup for an overall for a pro card. This is wild, right? Um, and I stood center with a lovely athlete called Isabella, who had been working for her pro card for years and years and years, and she deserved it. And I stood next to her the whole time in that center point, and I knew I was close. I knew I was close, and she definitely deserved it. But I was like, I'm chasing her heels here. Like, what?
Yeah.
How? um, so I had to keep going, and I had it in me. I had the enthusiasm, I had the energy, I felt great. So I was like, right, we keep going. So I did Poland, and then I did France, and then I came home and I was like, right, so I won in France. So I won first place and I was in the overall again. And then in Poland I came third again. So that's when again I wasn't in the overall, but again, really, really great placing. The competition was tough. So I was like, right, I think I've got one left. We're back home. We're in England. end it in the UK.
Yeah.
You've done a great job, and if it's not the year, it's not the year. Um, and yeah, I won my class, and the overall was insane, like absolutely insane. The girls were incredible, as they always are. You're on stage with girls who put their heart and soul into the sport and have just won each class, and this was the British final as well. So all of the girls who had been competing in the UK and throughout the season, they were there also. So all of the winners, everyone that I'd seen win overalls and other shows, and be traveling internationally. I'd seen girls go to all over Europe for the whole season. And I held the center, and I held that point, and I was so tired because they turned us so many
I
times,
bet.
turning, and they were turning, and they were turning. And in my mind, I was like, core control, Kirsty, core control. You lost it on core control. But then when you're like out of breath, you're like, no, no, don't let it go. Don't let it go. Don't let it go. And I could hear my coach, I could hear my friends, and they were shouting at me. They was like shouting, like, Kirsty, hold that. And I did, and I held it. And then the moment they announced the pro winner, I just kept saying my number in my head. I kept saying my number over and over and over and over in my head, and I was like, this is my number. This is my number. And when they said my number, I just collapsed. I just collapsed to the ground. I think that I'd met, and I was talking to some of the girls backstage, and they were like clapping for me, and I could see them, and I was like, what? But I was so out of breath. And in my head, all I could think of was, all I could said to myself was you did it. You did it. You actually did it. Like, you actually did it. And I was in disbelief. It's a feeling that is completely indescribable, and it's the highest award in the bodybuilding world, on the planet. It's not something that is awarded lightly. It has weight to it. It has um prestige. It has value. It has history. All of for all of the people who have stepped on stage beforehand. And it was indescribable, and it was also nothing to do with what I looked like. Was what there was nothing in it that was anything to do with the visual for me, with the pride and how I felt, and the that sense of accomplishment. There was not one moment that I thought, I've achieved something physically that's great. It was you've achieved something inside that is strong, that has shown you that you can show up, that's shown you that you can get through every difficult day. And that was like, it came flooding to me, like, and I just cried, and I cried, and I cried. And I took one step off the stage, and I fell to the steps, and there's literally a picture of me like this, like, with my head in my hands, because the whole season was incredible, but it was like I was called to it. It was like I was meant to do it. And I don't know, if you believe in anything that's like spiritual or anything like that, but I it was like I was right. It was like you proved yourself that you're not crazy. Like, you were meant to
Wow.
do this, you know? And yeah, I don't want to kind of go on too long about it, but the moment's just difficult to put into words. It really, really is.
Oh,
Really
you could go on about it forever. I'm like,
is.
I'm immersed in this moment with you as you relive it. I'm like, wow, it's making me feel like inspired, and happy for you, of course, and just yeah, inspired because I'm on my road to pro, you could say. And I'm like,
Yes.
I no matter what happens, it is like it really is the journey, as cliche as it is, but even to just hear you describe that moment for you is really beautiful.
And I don't know if they do it in the US, but they get you to hold the card up above the head, and they said, you know, hold that card up, Kirsty, it's yours. And I just literally, there's a video of me, and I'm literally holding it down here, and I have to take a really deep breath, and I'm like this, and the photos behind me of me holding it above my head, but I'm like this, and you can literally see me go and gasp before I literally held it above my head, because it felt like I was lifting every difficult day above my head. It's
Wow.
that's not just a bodybuilding achievement. That is a life achievement. And that card, it was about the every day that led to that. It wasn't about that moment. It was about everything kind of flashed before my eyes. It was unbelievable. And it's worth it. And if you're immersed in the sport, and if you're called to it, and you know that it's calling you, it it's like a reaffirmation that you know that what you put your life into is meant for you, you know?
Hmm. Wow. Yeah, that's such a great way of putting into words what bodybuilding can do for someone too, with the pursuit of any dream, but especially this physically, mentally, emotionally demanding one. And it's just amazing to hear you recount that experience too, because you had actually been a pro in a different federation. And I'm wondering, that feeling must have been different because of all you had conquered, like you said.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It was uh, the now obviously the IFBB is the pinnacle. It always has been. Paul Dillette, who was obviously one of the IFBB greats, created the WBFF, and that was a federation I was heavily involved with in the UK. Um, the shows haven't run now in the UK for now a couple of years. The last show was actually the same month um, that I was in hospital, and then the shows after that didn't exist in the UK. Um, so far at the moment, anyway. Um, and I loved it. I absolutely loved being involved with the WBFF. I loved the fitness modeling. I still do. I love the shows. There are a lot of fitness model shows around in the UK, and my clients are involved with them, and they're great. And it's a different it's different. It's like uh, it's more of a pageant, and when I won my pro card with the WBFF, it was tough. Like it was tough. It was again a really great achievement to me, and I wouldn't say that it's any less of an achievement just because it's not the IFBB, but the point of my life I was at, the weight of the purpose and the weight of the sacrifices, and it meant different. It meant different because I was in a different part of my life, you know.
Mm.
Going into the IFBB postpartum was, for me, the scariest, most difficult, most impossible challenge that I
Hmm.
could set myself postpartum. It's not, you know, I said to myself, this isn't done, Kirsty. You know, no one is going to expect you to win an IFBB Pro card with a 1 year old. Just having had twins, this is not okay. This is not normal. But for me, I had to do the hardest task. And for me, that was always going to be the most difficult thing. And I'd had in my head before that, because I was a really great fitness model, that it wasn't me, that I couldn't do it, that I was known in this world, and that this wasn't didn't suit me, or I wasn't going to be good enough for this, because not to say that it was not difficult what I did before, but it was a hard journey to go towards that. And it was the hardest thing I could possibly do because it wasn't my safety. No one knew who I was. I was completely new to the posing, all of this. But for me, I had to do the hardest thing because that is what would scare me the most and that is what would push me the most.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had to take the hard road. I had to. It called me.
Yeah.
Me
Yeah,
too.
it's amazing. I mean, to go through such a transition as well and put yourself up to the hardest task, I think that says a lot about you and your mentality. Now that you are an IFBB Pro, what are you currently working on and towards?
So I would love to compete in America. I would love to come over to the US and compete. I would love to one day get an invite to the Arnolds. I would one day love to qualify for Olympia. Again, it sounds impossible out loud, but and it's the pinnacle and it's rare and British athletes, they're few and far between, but that's what I'll chase. But if it didn't happen, then I still want to stand on stage and inspire and to do the best I can and to stand with other women who I also admire too because I was really lucky at the British Championships. I was in the lineup with the overall pro card winner. In Sweden, I was also in that lineup with the overall pro card winner. And obviously in the British final, I was in the lineup again. In France, I was in the lineup again for the overall. So I'm standing with these women. It's so beautiful to me. So irrespective of any placing, any qualification for any show, which is obviously, any bodybuilder's, any athlete's dream, it's still important to enjoy and everything that I can achieve um, from myself, and if that's standing in some really beautiful international lineups, coming top 10, I will be over the moon with that. I'm grateful for everything, and I think that that's so important for an athlete to be grateful and have gratitude for everything, no matter what the outcome is, because things only come to you. I truly believe things only come to you if you're grateful for what you have already. So yeah, to keep on going and to, we have some great shows in Europe too. We have some great shows around the world. I'd love to travel, and I took my daughter to most of the countries and
Oh,
most as well.
awesome.
She's only 18 months old and she's already been on 12 planes.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And we don't travel as much as you do in the US and the UK. We have to travel to different countries.
Right. But that's so amazing still that you did that with her and that she got to be there.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. She's like clapping in the audience and
Aw,
headphones on, and yeah, it's
so
it's
sweet.
it's great.
That's awesome. Does she recognize you when you're all tanned up and
She does. She likes the jewelry, so she likes the earrings,
uh-huh.
and she'll try and grab the earrings. Obviously with the tan, I have to make sure it's after the show that I hold her, not
Yeah.
you otherwise she'll mess up the tan and I'll mess up her. And I have to kind of wrap her muslin around her and make sure her arms and her legs are covered so I don't get all tan on her after the show before
Ah.
I wash it off. But she likes the sparkly earrings. I think
Oh,
she has a little crown at home and she puts the crown on her head and she puts the crown on my head. So I just hope that she thinks that we're both royalty and she's
that's
a prince.
awesome.
Yeah, I
I
just
love that.
hope one day when I explain to her what I did, I hope she'll be proud of it.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, I want to listen to this episode again myself. Once it goes live, I'm like, I need to listen again because I resonate so deeply with so much of what you've shared and what you talk about in your mentality as well and how you view this. so amazing. And I know you've inspired a lot of people through this episode. And I want to get your best advice, although you've given us such great insight. What is your best advice for someone who has never competed before but wants to? And then your best advice for someone who's on their road to pro?
So for someone who's never competed before, is focus on your best for what you have experience of. So if you have never stepped on stage before, be proud and focus on getting through your quarter turns, getting through your T-walk, getting on stage and smiling and your performance, and be proud of that and use that as your benchmark, use that as your goal to then improve and have that as your focus. Don't have winning as your focus. Have the focus on bringing your best, and then the next time you can look at again what you did that time and then improve on that, and then the next time improve on that. Right, what can I do with my posing, what can I do with my walking, my presentation? Focus on that rather than the outcome, because the outcome happens whatever. What you can control is self-improvement and setting your own self up for doing your best. So that's what I would say to a first-time competitor, because I think sometimes first-time competitors can get kind of worried about winning or placing, or, am I going to look silly? Am I going to no? Focus on bringing a package that you're standing with athletes with that you love. And with someone who's on the road to pro, is don't give up. Be relentless. Be relentless, and don't let anyone tell you that you can't. Don't not even in the smallest doubting tone of someone. If you've gone for a pro qualifier and you've just narrowly missed out, and you can hear someone say, "Oh, well, it's difficult," or it's a really difficult thing to achieve. Yes, acknowledge, of course it is. Don't let it throw stones in your path. Keep going. Be relentless on the pursuit of what you know that you want, because that's what it takes. Someone could have definitely taken the pro card that I took, but they might have given up 2 shows before me. And it takes that drive and knowing that you can, even when you haven't got there yet. Because I always like to say, you don't know you can do something until you've done it. So you don't know for sure. You never know anything, you can do something until you've done it. So you've got to internally feel that you've got this.
Oh, yeah. Kirsty, come on, you're preaching. It's amazing to just hear everything you've said. I mean, so much of it I needed to hear. So I appreciate you coming on, and I want other people to be able to appreciate you. So, how can people connect with you, follow your journey, and also work with you?
So I'm a coach. I coach women from all over the world: USA, UK, Australia, Europe. I have Instagram, TikTok, and I love meeting new people. So my Instagram handle is Kirsty, spelled Kirsty. Apologies for you American folks who prefer my name to be Kirsty, because it's so much because Kirsty's a really strange name in the US. Underscore Team Fit Girl, because Team Fit Girl is my coaching team. So yeah, find me on Instagram, Kirsty underscore Team Fit Girl, and you will find me, hopefully. And I hope that this has reached someone who needs it.
Oh, most definitely. We'll put all that in the show notes page. You guys, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away, it'll be at the top of the page. If you're listening in the future, scroll down to the category section. It's alphabetized. Not only will you find how to connect with Kirsty and myself, but you will also see a full breakdown of this episode in summary format, a bulleted list of the topics we covered, as well as episode timestamps so you can go back, listen to your favorite parts, or share it with your friends, your family, your teammates. Let them know what resonated with you most. And of course, tag us. Let us know what your takeaways were or what that you enjoyed. It goes a long way for the show, but more importantly, for the athletes who come on and share so openly, and give us their time so we can learn with and from them. So, all that being said, Kirsty, thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you for having me, and congratulations and well done on such a beautiful platform. So thank you.
Aw, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. And to everybody listening, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.